It's 2 a.m. The lights are off, and you swear you just heard something move. Your heart rate spikes before your brain even finishes the thought. You're suddenly hyper-aware of every shadow in the room. That coat hanging on the door looks like a person standing there. That creak in the floor sounds like footsteps. You know, logically, that you're alone. You know nothing is there. And yet, your body refuses to believe you. Here's the unsettling part. That reaction isn't random, and it isn't weak. It's a piece of software running in your brain that is hundreds of thousands of years old, installed long before your species had fire, before it had walls, before it had any way to defend itself once the sun went down. And tonight, in your bedroom, with the door locked and the world perfectly safe, that ancient program is still running exactly as designed. Before humans controlled fire, somewhere around 400,000 years ago, our ancestors spent roughly half of every single day in near total darkness. No flame, no candle, nothing but moonlight on clear nights, and on cloudy ones, nothing at all. And during those hours, something happened to the human body that completely flipped its position in the food chain. By day, early humans were dangerous. Tool users, group hunters, capable of taking down prey many times their size. But human eyes are built for daylight. Step into true darkness, and that advantage disappears almost completely. Meanwhile, the predators stalking the same landscape, big cats, hyenas, wolves, had eyes evolved specifically to thrive in low light. The moment the sun dropped, the hierarchy reversed. Humans stopped being the hunters and became, very simply, the prey. This is where psychologists believe your fear of the dark actually comes from, and the explanation is colder and more mathematical than you'd expect. It's called air management theory, and it works like this. Imagine you're standing in the dark and you hear a rustle in the grass. You have two possible mistakes you could make. Mistake 1. You assume it's a predator. You run, and it turns out to be nothing but wind. You've wasted some energy and felt briefly embarrassed in front of absolutely no one. Mistake 2. You assume it's just the wind. You stay still, and it turns out to be a predator. That mistake costs you your life. Evolution does basic math here, and the math is brutal. A brain that treats every sound in the dark as a potential threat survives. A brain that stays calm and rational gets eaten. So the anxious, jumpy, paranoid version of the human brain is the one that got passed down to you. Not because it was smarter, because it was alive long enough to reproduce. And your brain doesn't just react to sound in the dark, it actively manufactures danger out of nothing. There is a phenomenon called pareidolia, where your visual system takes incomplete information, a vague shape, a shifting shadow, and forces it into a recognizable pattern, usually a face, usually a threat. That jacket on the door isn't actually shaped like a person. Your brain decided it was, instantly, without asking your permission, because in the dark, assuming the worst case was the safer bet for thousands of generations in a row. Here's a detail that should genuinely surprise you. Psychologists studying children have found that fear of the dark tends to peak between the ages of 3 and 6, and this pattern shows up almost identically across completely unrelated cultures around the world. Children raised in different countries, different religions, different parenting styles, different levels of exposure to scary stories still hit that same fear spike at roughly the same age. That consistency is the signature of something inherited, not something taught. Nobody sat down billions of toddlers across human history and convinced them all independently that the dark was dangerous. Their bodies already knew. So if humans were this wired to fear darkness, You'd expect them to avoid it completely. Stay near the fire. Stay in the light. Never venture in. And for most of the day, that's exactly what happened. But then you get to a cave in southwestern France, and the story gets strange. Inside Lascaux, deep sections of the cave extend over 250 meters underground, through narrow passages so dark that even today, with modern lighting equipment, visitors describe the blackness as disorienting. Nobody lived in that cave. There's no evidence of permanent shelter, no everyday tools, no domestic life. What there is, deep in that crushing darkness, is some of the most sophisticated art human beings would create for thousands of years. Running horses, charging bison, leaping deer, painted with a command of perspective and movement that wouldn't reappear in art for millennia. And they did it carrying nothing but small stone lamps filled with animal fat, flickering just enough to see a few feet ahead. Think about what that actually required. Every fear response we just described, the hyper-awareness, the pattern recognition, the dread, all of it would have been firing constantly as someone crawled deeper into a passage that swallowed light completely. And they kept going anyway. Not once, but repeatedly, across generations, deep enough that researchers believe these spaces weren't accidental detours. They were destinations. Archaeologist April Noel has proposed that caves like Lascaux functioned as what she calls performative spaces, locations where scattered groups of hunter-gatherers periodically gathered for something beyond simple survival. Possibly storytelling, possibly ritual, possibly ceremonies tied to initiation, where stepping into the terrifying blackness was the entire point. A controlled confrontation with the exact fear evolution had built into every person in that group. This pattern of treating darkness as sacred, rather than purely dangerous, shows up far beyond one cave in France. In ancient Egypt, the sun god Ra was believed to die every single evening at dusk, traveling west into darkness, the same direction the souls of the dead were believed to travel, toward Osiris and the underworld. Lighting devices known as wicks on sticks appear in funerary artwork, and one was discovered inside the tomb of Tutankhamun, suggesting these tools weren't just practical. They were ritual instruments meant to accompany the dead through the same darkness the living feared every night. Among the classic Maya, archaeological evidence paints an even more startling picture. Night wasn't simply endured, it was active, even celebratory. Royal feasts happened after dark, accompanied by inebriating cacao drinks consumed during midnight dances. Astronomers tracked the movement of stars specifically at night. Offerings were made to underworld deities, an attempt to negotiate with the dark itself and guarantee the sun's return the next morning. None of these civilizations stopped being afraid of the dark. They simply built entire systems of meaning around that fear instead of just running from it. Which brings us back to your bedroom at 2 a.m., heart still slightly elevated, eyes still scanning shadows you know aren't real threats. You are not broken. You are not being irrational. You are running code that kept your ancestors alive across hundreds of thousands of years of nights with no flame, no walls, and no way to see what was coming for them. The locked door changes nothing about the wiring underneath. Your amygdala doesn't know what a deadbolt is. It only knows that darkness once meant something was hunting you, and on some level, deep beneath conscious thought, it still believes that completely. The next time a shadow makes you flinch in your own home, you're not overreacting. You're simply doing, automatically and instantly, exactly what kept every single one of your ancestors alive long enough to eventually become you.